The Luminous Mind, Episode 001. I remember one teacher in particular that stood up and she said, I have 30 years of experience, and she listed all her degrees in education and her doctorate, and she stood there and said, this will not work and this is a detriment to children. But here, this small group of women were proving her wrong.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Welcome. My name is Rebecca Bowman. I'm the host of The Luminous Mind. This is the introduction to The Luminous Mind. First of all, to give you some information about myself and my family, we come to you from the wilds of Idaho in the Rocky Mountains near the beautiful Teton Mountain Range, where we like to backpack and hike and ski. I have 3 boys and 1 girl. They range in ages from high school all the way down to elementary. My boys and my husband are not only backpackers, but they're ultralight hammock campers. And we're going to give you some more information on that later. So this shows the introduction. I just wanted to give you some background as to why we created the Luminous Mind and maybe tell you a few stories. My own personal education comes from traditional schooling, where I was very happy. I was a very social kid. I loved hanging out with my friends at school, and we had planned on giving our children the same compulsory education that we both had. I kind of had the mindset that I was going to leave the teaching of my children up to the experts, and I kind of feel sorry for anybody who would have gotten my children because I really had the mindset that that was their job. So the first experience that I had that kind of changed my personal paradigm with education, I was listening to a radio show while I was nursing my second son. So my first son was around 3 years old, and this radio show was about online learning and taking classes through the internet, which at that time was a very foreign concept, but I found it very intriguing. So with that, I in fact ended up finishing my bachelor's degree completely online, which was a great asset to me with a growing family, that I was able to do all my education either in the evenings or when they were taking naps. So my second educational paradigm shift was watching my older sister, which I greatly admire. She has her own educational journey, which she has shared with us on The Luminous Mind. So with my sister, her own educational experience led her to creating a charter school with other dedicated parents in the Boise area. I actually am in the Idaho Falls area, which is about a 5-hour drive from Idaho Falls to Boise. And so when my older son got old enough to go to school, I started looking around in my area for charter schools, which at that time there was only one. And through the lottery process, my son did not get accepted into that charter school. So watching my sister's example, I just felt like I was crazy enough at that time to start my own charter school. And so with the help of more dedicated parents in this area, that's just what we did. However, in the process, I needed to decide what I was going to do with my son in his education. And I'm a really big believer in consistency. And so he was already used to being home. And so I started looking at virtual online charter schools. And we decided to homeschool him with the help of a virtual online school. So I had all the same stereotype that most people have. At first, I found it very difficult, very hard. And it was such a lifestyle change to me that I really struggled with it. But really, after just a few months, I saw so many benefits. I really liked the idea that I knew what they were learning. It was a very rigorous curriculum. I liked the fact that I could reinforce topics that we had discussed later in the day, and that I could understand where my child was coming from when he mentioned certain things that he had learned about. I also liked the idea that we could vacation when we wanted to. My husband's a pharmaceutical rep, and so we were able to travel with him a little bit. With homeschooling, you have some great days, and then sometimes you have some horrible days. Really can be discouraging. You have to combat rude comments and maybe people just inserting their advice. I'm really grateful for the support that I had. I have a very great, supportive husband who really doesn't care what people think, and so when people would insert their opinions into our home, he just really didn't care and kind of taught me to do the same. I'm grateful for my sister, which I mentioned earlier. She was great encouragement to me. We also had a rare online teacher who made regular phone calls and would check and encourage me, and really appreciate that. Later experience that I had was I've worked in public policy both nationally and the state level. And within our state of Idaho, our state superintendent was trying to increase online learning. And so mothers like me that had been doing online schooling with our children were asked to come to the State House to testify. And online education is a very great thing in a rural state like Idaho because it allows us access to more classes that we may not otherwise get. And also it exposes us to wonderful teachers from around the country. But I remember us, the small group of mothers, coming, and we were met with the opposition of a large teachers union, and they were indeed the experts on education. And I remember them, many of them standing up and testifying against online schooling. And I remember one teacher in particular that stood up and she said, I have 30 years of experience, and she listed all her degrees in education and her doctorate. And she stood there and said, this will not work, and this is a detriment to children. But here, this small group of women were proving her wrong. We weren't the experts in education, but we had a lot of great advice they could learn from us. I just remember, too, these mothers had a lot of hope and excitement for the future. A few years later, we were asked to be interviewed for accreditation for our local district who had recently started their own online school. And I remember one of these experts asking us if we felt like we were sufficiently warned how difficult the homeschooling and the education of our children would be. This was the first time I ever felt really angry over that question of somebody having to warn me. I thought in my mind of all the benefits that we've received from being able to educate in an alternative way and to provide this education for our children, and how much it has benefited me and my children. The benefits far outweigh the difficulties that we had. And I have recently been able to join a great co-op with great supportive friends. And what my objective is that I want to enlarge that circle and create that for all of those people that are doing something that's alternative and maybe against the norm, to be their friend and their support and their encouragement. So we're going to take a break.
If you would like to see your business grow, then contact us at The Luminous Mind for advertising space on theluminousmind.net. or on the podcast, The Luminous Mind Podcast.
Welcome back. So after my long drawn-out stories, we'll go back to our objectives of why we're starting this. We plan to discuss and cater to homeschoolers, mostly because I am one. So we're going to discuss some curriculum and resources that homeschoolers can use, online education and where we can fit that in with our schooling, college entrance exams, how to get into college with an unofficial transcript, unschooling, the importance of unstructured playtime. Sometimes we look at playtime as a waste of time, but in my own personal view, that when children are allowed to follow their passions, that their education takes on a self-directed approach, and they learn to love it, and they really flourish in that environment. We'll talk about mentorship and putting our children in front of others that will help them grow professionally, forming co-ops and those support schools. Here at the Luminous Mind, we want to see a full free market approach to education. So we'll discuss charter schools, we'll discuss blended schools, we'll discuss teaching in different ways like Montessori, we'll discuss private schools and independent schools and how important those are in our communities. So we want to help shape the paradigm shift through ordinary expert mom and dad's personal experience to create a community, to enlarge that community with daily podcasting with alternative schoolers and educators that come together to provide their encouragement and their support. I found that once we've interviewed people, they usually want to expound upon our interview with written advice, which I think is wonderful, and we've listed that on our website and hope to continue to do so. We want to educate people on different philosophies and curriculums, different schooling options that are available, on the personal and family benefits. We at the Luminous Mind want to strengthen families and help parents take control of their children's education. We want to help the experienced parents maybe look for options and support and encouragement. Especially want to help those that are just starting homeschooling or looking for alternative schooling for their children but don't know where to start. So some of you are probably wondering why I use the term fire starter and spreading the fire. Just in my experience with public policy, we've been kind of a disruptive group. We've disrupted the traditional norms of education, and so that's why I like to refer to our parents as fire starters. So join us and be part of the conversation of ordinary fire starters who light minds on fire. To help us change the paradigm, go to our website, theluminousmind.net. To become a fire starter, on each page there is a fire tab, either at the side or the bottom of the website. You can connect with my scheduling program, and you can schedule your own interview that fits your schedule. You can like us on Facebook and also on Twitter and Google+. Subscribe to us on YouTube, as all our podcasts will be available in iTunes and Stitcher, but we're going to have some pre-introductory podcasts on YouTube, and that would also be a good place for you to share stuff on Facebook or Twitter. You can send me a message. Please send us questions that you might have, ways that you'd want to contribute. Give us written contributions, and let's all start Minds on Fire together. If you check out our website, you'll see that we have a Kickstarter campaign going that would go a long ways to helping the Luminous Mind grow. We also have a PayPal tab that you can help if you desire to do that way. But we just want to hear from our listeners and to provide content that will be interesting to you. So be a fire starter and join the Luminous Mind. We need more fire starters. To join us, go to our website, theluminousmind.net, and click on the Fire tab. You'll be able to schedule an appointment today. Also, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.